Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for some of you across the world. Welcome to the seventh day of Chocolatey. And today, my true love gave to me a Choco Central Management module, or Chocolatey Central Management module. That's really interesting when you say it and really say it out loud. The Choco CCM module. We're going to be talking about that today. I'm your host. My name is Rob. At Chocolatey, we are the Windows automation experts. All right, today I am excited. We are being rejoined with Stephen Valdinger, Senior Solutions Engineer here. How you doing, Stephen?
Awesome. Morning.
Fantastic. And also joined by Joel Francis, also software engineer at Chocolatey. So how are you doing this morning, Joel?
Doing good, thank you.
Great. Right. So, quick announcements before we dive in. We have two panel discussions coming up. We have our day 9 discussion, which is our chocolate integration. So, we're going to be talking about all those different infrastructure type tools that work with Chocolatey that you would use out on your automation strategies. And so you might hear some stuff about Puppet, SCCM Intune. You might hear some stuff about Ansible, Chef. We don't know. And so submit your questions. You're going to help shape this discussion, help maybe show off the different things that we want to talk about there. We're excited. We're going to have quite a few people on here. So it's going to be a bit of an experiment on how well that kind of comes through as well. Now, day 12, our Q&A panel session, that's our wrap. We're going to talk a little roadmap, also submit your questions for that. We're really excited about bringing that to you and getting kind of everybody together to kind of talk about where Chocolatey is going and just general Q&A, all things Chocolatey. All right, so today, bringing it back, we're going to be looking at this central management module that we use on top of the API. Now, we actually saw on day 3 during the central management webinar, we saw Joel show us how to use straight up PowerShell to get information out of the API. Today, we're going to see how that gets even easier when you actually use the PowerShell module that already has all of that stuff for you. And so what we'll be seeing is kind of getting and exporting information out of the system and also deployments. And then Stevie will be showing us groups. And with that, we have a special surprise today. We're going to be talking about Active Directory syncing. So you'll be able to see how you can take your groups in Active Directory and sync them in. And so afterwards, we'll share some links with you, and then we'll jump into more of a Q&A. So I am with that, I'm going to pass over to Stevie. Stevie, if you want to go ahead and take over.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Rob. So yeah, to get us started here, we are going to look at using the Choco CCM module to interact with the central management API. And we'll take a look at how you can leverage Active Directory and bring those Active Directory joined computers into your central management estate in terms of their grouping. Now, when you install Chocolatey onto your systems, you have the agent installed and you've configured it to report into central management. All of those computers will show up into the central management web interface. And we can show you that here. But currently, there doesn't exist a native way inside of central management to manage the group memberships of those machines. And since deployments are all based on groups of machines and not individual machines, it requires you to do a little bit of extra work, either creating the groups manually in the web UI here, or now that we have this Choco CCM module, you're able to programmatically do those types of operations as well. So we'll dive in real quick here. I'm going to go ahead and import our Choco CCM module, and it is available on the PowerShell gallery today. You can just do an install module, Choco CCM. It does require a valid Chocolatey for Business license. There is a check for that. So if you don't currently have a licensed edition of Chocolatey, this module probably isn't for you, especially if you don't have central management installed. But I digress. So I'm going to go ahead and import this module. And the very first thing we're going to do is authenticate to our central management instance. So I've got everything running on one local box here. So my host name is going to be localhost, and I'm just going to grab a credential from PowerShell. If you happen to be using HTTPS, if you've secured your central management web interface with an SSL certificate, there is a use SSL parameter that you can add to the Connect CCM computer function here. And what that will do is translate down to all of the calls inside of the central management module and switch that HTTP to HTTPS for you. So I'm going to go ahead and just run this line here, and it's going to pop up over here. So I will authenticate. And now I'm authenticated to the central management module. This function here creates a session variable. It sets a cookie inside of your PowerShell session, and then that cookie is passed to every subsequent call of all the different functions inside of the Choco CCM module. So if you happen to forget to run this, don't worry, the commandlets will tell you. They'll throw an error that you haven't connected yet. So just so that we don't see any smoke and mirrors here, I'm going to go ahead and just grab all of the computers that are named web something, and then I will just output those over here. If I would type correctly, you can see that I get all of my web computers. So I've only got two here. I've got web 2 and I've got web 1. So the next thing that I'm going to do is use that information that I just collected to create a new group in central management containing those computers. So I'm going to give it a name of web servers. I'm going to give it a description that this is all my web servers in CCM. And then for the computer parameter, this accepts an array. And I'm just going to say computers.name, which is the name property off of this. So if we run that, we can see that we get a response back. We've got our web servers, we've got our description. We don't have any groups because we didn't give it any. And then we've got all of our computers. And if we go over here to our groups and refresh this page, you can see that now our web servers group has been created. We can edit this and have a quick look, and we can see that web 1 and web 2 are available as group members inside of that group. Extending this a little bit further, if we have a group inside of Active Directory that has computer members, perhaps we want to add all or some of those particular groups into central management. And actually, let me just run that. And again, we'll do the whole smoke and mirrors thing and just show you that I do have a group called database servers in Active Directory right now. And what I'm going to do is say, I want to name the CCM group. I want it to match what the name is in Active Directory. So I'm just going to grab the name of that group for the name, and for all of the computers, I'm going to then use the get 80 group member commandlet, specify the identity as the group.name, and then give it a description. So if I were to run this, we get that nice output back that says I've got my database servers and it's all of my DB servers, and I have just one database server in my environment right now that's a member of that group. And again, if we come back over here and we refresh that, we can say edit, and we have our client DB machine in here as well. And we can extend this. You can mix and match these sorts of things. And again, we have the ability within the CCM module itself to check our work as well. So we can get all of our groups. So we've got our web server group, we've got our database group, and then we can get the individual members of those groups. If we look at the web servers group, we can see that we have 2 computers in that group. And for the database servers, we have just the one DB server. We can also modify existing groups. So if we've already created a group and we add a machine later, you can absolutely do that as well. I'm just going to manually put this in. And you'll notice that the add CCM group member command line doesn't have any output. That API doesn't really output very nice information. So there's no output in terms of that. So if we go over here and take a quick look at this now, you can see that our database server now has 2 machines in it. If we edit this machine to take a look, we have our CCM server has been added in there as well. And again, we can do the same thing through the web UI or the PowerShell module as well. So you can see now that we have two of those machines included in there. You can also have nested groups. So if I wanted to do something like add CCM group member and pass a group into it, that's perfectly valid as well. So going off the cuff a little bit here, we can say add CCM group member. Let's say this is our database servers, and we can say group is web servers. And we can run that command, and then we can check our work again. If we look, this will now say 4. And if we look in here, we have client DB, CCM server, and then our web servers group as well. And I'm going to go ahead and just remove this while I'm in here for later. That is how you can really quickly interact with Active Directory to sync up your existing Active Directory clients and group them inside of central management the same way that you might have them grouped inside of your Active Directory or organization. So if you've got nested OUs of different levels, using the ability to put groups inside of groups, you can really codify what that looks like inside of central management so that your groups kind of match what's going on inside of your Active Directory infrastructure. I believe it is on the roadmap for a native integration so that Active Directory syncing just works natively inside of central management, but that's something that will come in a future release of central management. It doesn't exist currently, but I wanted to really highlight that that's okay. Using the API that's available in central management and this Choco CCM module, you absolutely have the ability today to do that kind of work on your own. And with that, I am going to hand over to Joel. He's going to dive in a little bit deeper about this stuff. So Joel, take it away.
Thank you, Stevie. Give me one quick sec to just share my screen here. Where are we? Okay, let's go ahead and use this. Lovely. Okay, so what I have here is a very bare bones QDE environment, a quick deployment environment. It's just got some basic stuff so we can show you a little bit of an outline. If you were here for the day 3 talk, we actually showed you how you can interact with the API pretty directly. So this is that script here. I'm just going to show you a bit of a quick comparison between interacting with the API directly with a little bit more sort of raw code, I guess you would say, and interacting with it from the Choco CCM module itself, which is much more sort of neat and refined and a little less complicated because there's a lot going on here. You got to set up your web requests, figure out what kind of request it is. So you can do all this very effectively with the Swagger API and the documentation that CCM provides. But it can be a little bit, what's the word? Bit of an obstacle in some ways, I guess you would say, because a lot of that API is a little particular and there's a lot of little details you have to get right here. So just as a sort of very quick comparison, this is the login request that I showed the other day for logging into CCM and getting that session cookie set. And as Stevie showed, in Choco CCM, it's actually very, very straightforward. You literally call one command. You can call connect CCM server, pass in a quick credential. And in this case, I have SSL set up on this machine. So I'm going to pass use SSL as well. So if I quickly log in here, one moment, if I can spell correctly, that would probably help us here. Yeah. Yep. So there you go. Perfect. Okay, so I logged in. It's all set. We don't even have to worry about passing the session variable around anymore because the Choco CCM module handles that for us. And once again, if we go ahead and check, all of this stuff, if we want to create a deployment with the API here directly, there's a little bit of a complicated thing. You got to know the exact URL. You have to make sure you're passing in your content types in your session and the exact right, REST request type, and of course your actual information you want in the request. With Choco CCM, it's much more straightforward. So you can just go ahead and be like, hey, I want a new CCM deployment, give it this name, and it will just go right ahead and do that for you directly. So if I go ahead and run that, there we go, keep packages up to date and stick today's date on it. Maybe we run this like once a week or something. So we just use that date to keep track of things. So if I go ahead and check in CCM now, let's see, let's go look at our deployments. We should have a draft deployment here. Once this loads, look at that, keep packages up to date. Perfect. It's right here, nice and easy, simple, one command, good to go. So it's in a draft state now. Let's go ahead and add some steps. And here's our adding steps. So literally all we do is we just call new CCM deployment step, and we go ahead and give it the name of the deployment we need to attach the step to. We give it a name for the step itself. We give it a group to target. In this case, we're just going to send it to a group that defines all of our client machines. In this very bare bones environment, there's only one computer in this group, but you could conceivably have many computers in a group like that, or you could set it up to do multiple groups if you'd prefer. And you can go ahead and just say, I want a basic step type, which means we're just going to call a basic Choco command. That command is going to be upgrade, and we're going to upgrade all our packages just to make sure everything's nice and up to date with whatever the latest version of our packages are that we've defined in our internal repository here. Let's go ahead, add a deployment step. Perfect, nice and quick. And there's no output here, but if you did need to check your work, you could call get CCM deployment step and that sort of thing. For the purposes of this demo, we're going to keep it a little bit more visual. So I'm just going to go ahead and refresh this page, and we'll see that Choco upgrade all step has been added in here. Lovely. Let's just double check it real quick. There we go. Choco upgrade all, nice, perfect. That's what we needed. It's going to go to all of our clients, and there's these configuration values as well, which you can set, via the API. You can set this via Choco CCM as well. So if you needed a lower execution timeout, or you needed to have a bit of a contact timeout just so that you didn't have the deployment sitting away there. If for example, you have machines that just are going to not come online in the next week, you've just decommissioned a machine, you haven't had time to remove it yet, maybe you'd set that to 20 minutes or something, so it wouldn't sit there forever and it would just fail that one specifically, and that's fine. So there we go, this step's ready to go. Let's just go ahead and add another one real quick. We're going to add in a more advanced script step. So we're going to give it the type advanced, and we're going to give it a PowerShell script. So it's just going to run this PowerShell script as is on the machines. And in this particular case, we're just going to clear out the temp directory, because sometimes when you upgrade packages, when you run an installer, it will go ahead and dump a lot of files in the temp folder. Can be for certain system updates, can be for certain application updates, things like that tend to do that. So you might have a policy where you're just like, you know what, we just want to keep the temp folder clear because we're a little tight on disk space on certain machines. So we're just going to go ahead and clear that. Perfect. Let's add that step. All good. Let's just double check that for us. So you'll see this in the UI in a similar fashion. If we refresh this one more time, there we go. We've got our clean temp folder step. Lovely, nice and straightforward. Let's just check it. So you can see the PowerShell script we put in here is just verbatim right there. And it's going to go to all clients again, and deployment step name is there as well. And for something like this, you might actually want a fairly low execution timeout if you were running this, depending on exactly how your systems are set up. You might have some systems where you just have giant temp folders and you want to set a lower execution timeout so that you can kind of get clued into which ones those are and go clean them out more manually, or you want to set some more permanent solution for those ones that are maybe more heavily used and a lot more stuff in the temp folder. So there we go. We've got a step there. Now, literally all we have to do is run 2 more commands, one to get it to ready and one to actually start the deployment. So let's go ahead and move this one from draft into ready. And we should see that in our UI here as well. And again, this is just so much more straightforward with this module than using the API directly. The module doesn't have 100% coverage yet, but we're working on it. And it does have coverage for the most, basically most requested or most utilized aspects of the API that we would expect. And if you have more, the module is on GitHub, so you can file issues or pull requests if you prefer. I believe it's open source. Steve, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it's open source and it's ready to go. So if you have issue requests, we are more than happy to take them. And of course, if you have a Chocolatey license, you can send support requests for those things as well, and we'll get them ferried over where they need to be. So we're just going to start this deployment right here. Nice and Nice and quick, nice and easy. And it will just go ahead and move it into active, and we'll be able to just see that kind of happen. There we go. Perfect. Lovely. Let's just keep an eye on that. So we got 2 steps. One's already done. Nice and quick. So our upgrade's already done. There wasn't much to upgrade in this particular environment, but it went through and made sure everything's good. And then we're just going to clear out the temp folders real quick, just to make sure that's all good. And just to kind of reiterate, so this sort of adding steps and everything is about 2 to 3 times more complicated, I would guesstimate. When you're using the raw API, if you have tools that don't have a PowerShell integration, absolutely go right ahead and work out how you want to interact with the API from there using whatever tools they provide. But if you have something that has like a PowerShell module or way to hook into PowerShell, you can just grab the Choco CCM module and use that as well, and it will massively simplify things for you in the vast majority of cases. There we go. It's all succeeded. We've cleaned our temp folders. We can just pop in and check that real quick. Lovely, all successful. Let's just check the log. Probably nothing in there because there were no errors. So nothing went wrong. Everything got removed from the temp folder. Everything's all good to go. So that's really, really just kind of a high level, like this is how simple it is just to get things started with Choco CCM versus the API. I'm going to hand back over to Stevie now because I think he has a little more to show you in this regard. But yeah, thank you all.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Joel. Yeah, it is very much a simpler process to do things inside of the Choco CCM module than it is to write the actual raw API stuff yourself, for sure. So we've taken a look at syncing 80 groups. The next thing I wanted to talk about was dealing with finding out outdated software in your environment. You can do that inside of the web UI. If we go to our software tab, we can see that we've got a couple of different outdated software applications in this list. So if we were to just run this get CCM outdated software commandlet, we get that same data back. So we can see that we've got our Chocolatey license extension, the agent service, MVC music store, a couple of different flavors of that one. And we also have the get CCM outdated software member commandlet, and I'm going to target specifically this MVC music store web package. And I apologize, my database is dirty inside of this demo environment because I was poking and prodding and playing with this thing while I was setting up for my demo. So I've kind of made my database a little bit dirty. So you'll see that like Web 1 and Web 2 show up in this list a couple of times for the output of this particular commandlet. But on a clean database in your environments, nothing to worry about. That will be just fine. But what if I wanted to really quickly find out what software I have outdated in my environment, figure out what machines are currently running that outdated version of that Chocolatey package, that software in my environment, and create a deployment to go ahead and remediate those issues? Well, with the Choco CCM module, that's actually really simple to do. So what I'm going to do is create a new group inside of central management, since deployments are all targeted at a group level, not at an individual machine level. Even if it is just one machine has that particular Chocolatey package outdated, it still needs to be in a group so that it can get upgraded. So I'm going to create a new group inside of central management called MVC Music Outdated. And I'm going to give it a description just saying that these machines are the ones reporting this package is outdated. And I'm going to use this get CCM outdated software member. And I'm going to use, again, that package name. But this time, since my database is a little wonky, I'm going to go ahead and pass that the select object unique so that I only get 2 machines out of that. And then I'm going to splat that whole hash table to the add CCM group command. So we're going to run that, and I'm going to get my MVC music outdated group created. At that point, I'm ready to begin the process of starting to create a new deployment to remediate these systems. So I'm going to create a new CCM deployment that's going to create that deployment. We can see that in the output. And then I'm going to create a basic step deployment targeting that particular group, and then send that along via the API. So I'm going to use my MVC music upgrade deployment. I'm going to add a step named MVC music package upgrade. I'm going to target that MVC music outdated group. It's a basic step because I'm just running Choco upgrade, and I want to run that Choco upgrade command against the MVC music store web package. So I'm going to send all of that information across the API. And again, some of these don't give output and others do. So if you don't get an error, it worked. So we have that MVC music upgrade. If we check this out, we can edit this. We now have our step. And if we take a quick look at the step itself, we can see that, yes, it's going to do a Choco upgrade of the MVC music store web package. And these selected groups are targeting the correct group. That is what I expect to see there. So I'm going to return to deployments and return to my code here. And I'm going to move this deployment to ready. And then I'm going to start that deployment. So now if I go back into central management and I refresh the screen, we can see that that deployment is no longer in draft. It's not ready. It's actually active and it's running. So if we go to the details of this overall deployment, we can see that that's gone active. And if we dive in one level deeper, we can see that the Web 1 and Web 2 machines are currently ready and waiting on that deployment to kick off. Depending on where they are in the check-in window, an agent will check for a deployment every 3 minutes by default. So depending on where they're at in that window, we can see that the Web 2 machine has already picked that deployment up and is working on fixing it. Web 2 is still within that 3-minute window, waiting to check in to be remediated. And we can see that that package did indeed upgrade. It's successful. If we check the log here, you can see that everything was fine. If you did have an error in here, of course, we have this export to zip file button here. This currently doesn't have a PowerShell function available in the module, but it's on my list. Pretty much if there's a button inside of central management that you can click, there's an API endpoint that you can invoke to do that work. We just haven't gotten to everything yet. So that worked. Web 1 might be turned off at the minute in my environment, so that's probably going to sit there. I turned a couple of these machines off just to save horsepower on my machine. So since these are all VMs that are running currently, so that's probably not going to go anywhere. But you can see that in just a couple of quick lines of PowerShell, I mean, what is that? Maybe 10 lines, man, a little bit more than that, 15 lines or so. We've detected all of the machines that are currently running this outdated version of MVC Music Store Web. We've created a group and we've created and kicked off a deployment to remediate those systems. You'll notice that I haven't actually done anything with like a remove CCM group or a remove CCM group member commandlet. Those are still coming. They're in development right now. Hopefully they will be in the next version of central management. I'm very, very close to having the remove group member thing done. I'm chasing a recursion bug at the minute, and I won't tell you what time I was up till last night trying to get it to work so that I could preview it for today, but it's still eluding me. So for the time being, you can add stuff, but removing stuff, you can remove whole groups. That works just fine. But dealing with removing individual group members is still kind of in development and problematic. Little Easter egg, just something that put into your the back of your mind. Since this is PowerShell, and it's relatively easy to create a service for PowerShell, like just create a service that runs a PowerShell script on your system. You could do something like this. It won't be exactly this for your particular use case. It might be really close, or it might be very different. It just depends on exactly what you want to do. But if you stick something like this code block here in a while loop and start this as a service on your machine and start sleep every 5 minutes, this is going to go out, check your Active Directory group, whatever you specify in here, and it's going to add machines to to your central management group from the Active Directory group that you have defined. Again, you can extend this. That's obviously it's going to be different for every environment, but that's one way to interact with the API until we have the LDAP integration put in place like we want to. This is one way that you can overcome that hurdle. Create a PowerShell script, run it as a service, set this time to be whatever you want. You can even do arguments inside of here if you wanted to. You could have a command block or a commandlet binding param block up here to where you could specify the startup arguments for the service and configure how many minutes you want in between those checks. So if you want to sync, but maybe you don't have a lot of churn in your environment, so checking every 2, 3, 4 days is fine. Or maybe you have really ephemeral environments that you want that to be really quick. I want to check like every 2 minutes. To keep your central management estate and your Active Directory estate in sync. It's absolutely possible with the Chocolatey central management module. And
hey, Stevie, we got a question in chat.
Absolutely.
The first question was how do you track groups, which I think you've kind of shown. But the other is if we remove a group, then add another one with an identical name, is it the same group as far as Chocolatey is concerned?
It will be different. So there's an ID underneath there that gets generated. So if you have a group called Bob and you have a bunch of members in it, and then you remove that group and you create a new group called Bob, it will have a new ID. So it will create that just fine. But it won't have any members, obviously. It doesn't remember what that old group was. So you'll have to add that new group with the same name and then configure the members.
Awesome.
Yeah. Are there any other questions? Can I answer anything else? Because that's the end of my content. I'm not sure if
we did have one question just come in from Darren saying, do PS and LDAP commandlet work when querying a Samba 4 AD LDAP server?
They should. Yes. Yeah, they should. I know Samba just works on LDAP, so it probably wouldn't be like the AD commandlets. You would probably use ADSI with the LDAP query thing. It's more .NET-y than like a native PowerShell commandlet, but it's possible you can do that.
Awesome.
And just to show you what all is available in the Chocolatey central management module for now, Choco CCM. If we do a get module or get command of the module, Choco CCM. So there's quite a bit of stuff that you can do. And ignore this. This was me trying to fix it. This function isn't available in the currently released version of the module that's out on the PowerShell gallery. But yeah, you can do a whole bunch of stuff with the central management module that's harder to do with the raw API if you were to write it yourself, and faster than logging into the web API and clicking around a bunch of buttons and trying to find what you're looking for.
And I believe there's a documentation out there for this Choco CCM module.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can you show us where that is?
And actually, if you run any of these command, let's say we wanted to run, let's do get help, get get CCM software is a good one. And we say you get full help with examples back. That's fine. If you say online, what that's going to do is take you directly out to our online documentation for the module, and then from there you can see in our documentation we have a Chocolatey Central Management section, and then underneath there we have a Choco CCM module node, and all of the functions have documentation out on our doc site. So if you wanted more information about Get CCM Group, we have full PowerShell help documentation out there available as well.
All right. We got a few more minutes if there's anything else you want to show us. Otherwise,
let's see if I can't get creative.
like that. And of course, if you're listening in, you can share your questions and other things in the chat, and we'll see what we can get Stevie to do.
Okay, this one's kind of fun. So currently there is no way inside of the web interface to do like a recurring deployment, right? So if we were to go out here, we could say return to deployments. Once these are done and completed, there's no way to go back and reuse those particular deployments. So if we were to say get CCM deployment now, that's going to give me my MVC music upgrade deployment. It's currently active. But if I were to say export CCM deployment and say, and this doesn't tab complete, VC music upgrade out file. I want to put this in C temp export XML. And if I go to C temp export.xml, there's my, ow, that's not what I wanted. Why did that not? Oh, let's open the whole folder. There's my, so it gives me a PowerShell object back. So if I were to do something like deployment equals import CLI XML C temp and export.xml deployment. Oh, why did that not pick up? I think I just found a bug live on the demo. But
it's also worth noting that down in that bottom corner, if you get too far over to that watermark,
does that
gets over the top of it a little bit?
Does that get over the top of it? Gotcha. Yeah. Good CCM deployment. So let's do that. And I think
it hasn't been too bad so far. Mostly because there was text on the left to look at that you're copying in.
Gotcha. I think this is what I want to do. Deployment. Actually, deployment equals import CLI XML C temp. If I look at, actually, let me do this and do deployment. I get that deployment back. And I think there's a way with get CCM deployment to get more information from a deployment as well. No, they don't return by ID, only by name. Well, I was hoping that would be something cool that I could show off, but it looks like I have a bug coming through. But it would be what I'm trying to get at is it would be theoretically possible to get a deployment, get all its steps and everything. And I think there's more commandlets that I need, and then munch it all together to an XML, CLI XML, export that. Then you have basically a backup of that. That deployment, and then you can use import CLI XML to rehydrate that object and then just modify the properties of that object to craft a new deployment. You might change the name, etc., and then supply that to the API.
It's absolutely possible. There's just maybe a little thing to adjust inside of Choco CCM here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've seen it work before. I've seen you do it.
Yeah, it's definitely worked. So it's, again, the demo gods have not been friendly to me over the course of the last few days. So
they're a little more friendly today.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, it's gone.
A lot of things have gone a lot better today.
Yeah.
Midstream shift, folks. As you can tell, it's powered by Zoom today. So it's Zoom to Restream instead of Restream Live Studio that we've been using. So hopefully that's improved our quality here. And we're going to look at maybe even tweaking that a little bit more. Not necessarily tomorrow, but the Friday.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to show us, Stevie?
I think that is everything that I wanted to cover today. So if there's any more questions or anything like that, happy to field those. I'm just going to check the chat.
All right. As mentioned previously, you can get out there, grab that. Am I on video? I think I'm on video. You can get out and grab that Choco Central Management module, Choco CCM module, just by going out to, of course, in PowerShell import module. It's on the PowerShell gallery, so it gets you. If you want to get to the code and provide feedback, I believe this is the link, and that's, as Adil said previously, ch0.co/Choco CCM. And more code out on that 12 days code where we're able to go and look at those examples from the 12 days of Chocolatey. This is currently, I think, on Stevie's repository in GitHub. We're going to move that into Chocolatey or Chocolatey Community. We haven't figured out which one of the two we're moving that to. So that's where that is. And that's right there. So tomorrow, you'll be joining us. If you're joining us, we're on the Ansible webinar. Now, that is not going to be on the live stream. As mentioned previously, you want to go out to chocolatey.org/events, find that 12 days of Chocolatey, and go find the registration link for that there. Get registered. Should be a really fun discussion. Should be really educational as well. But we'll be excited to see you there. And then you'll join us back here on Friday, where we'll be putting a panel discussion to talk about different types of integrations, including Puppet. I'm sure Ansible will come back up, and SCCM, Intune, and other infrastructure tools like Chef and other things, of course, as well. You might even see a little PDQ deploy. It really depends. We're asking you to pre-submit your questions on what you'd like to have us talk about, what you would like to see. So if you saw those links earlier, I'm just going to back up real quick to that and then kind of wait for a second. That is at ch0.co/day9 questions, right? Day9 questions. To submit those questions. We got some questions up there. I would love to see some more. And we'll be back in. You might even see a couple of demos. I think I might be doing one even for some of those systems, but we're going to try to keep it short and make sure that we have plenty of time to talk about all the different things. And like I said, yeah, if you want to see some uh, other integrations as well. And then, of course, we have our weekend. We'll be joined back by Paul Broadwith on Monday for taking a look at self-service anywhere. That's going to be a very fun and very highly used thing that we have out there is our self-service product in our commercial offering. And so we're excited to kind of show that off again and kind of deep dive into that a little bit. Day 11, still unannounced, but going to be super exciting. We have our mad scientist, Stephen, who's been with us today. We tend to lock him in the basement sometimes with the blessing of course, his wife, and ask him to um, do some R&D stuff for us and just kind of see what he can come up with. I'll tell you that a lot of that stuff that he comes up with, some of it doesn't make it out of R&D, but it's always kind of nice to take a look at that and get your opinions on what we should bring to products and start offering out as part of our offering. So we're excited to do that on day 11. On day 12, again, another Q&A, another panel session. We'll be talking about roadmap. We'll be talking about all things chocolatey. So you're going to help drive that discussion. Pre-submit your questions now. Come and ask your questions during the live stream. So I'm super excited. All right. So, um, Stephen, Joel, thanks so much for joining today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thanks
Very
everybody else for
exciting.
joining as well.
Thanks for hanging out, guys. You all have a good one.
All right. Well, let me get that link shared. Let's see if this works. Crossing our fingers, and it looks like it went. So there's our survey form. Um, so we got that one out. Yep, that's out there. So definitely uh, take a look at that form, get that filled out, and that's us signing off for the day. We'll see you back here on Friday. Tomorrow, we'll see you on the webinar if you're joining us there. So, yeah, and we'll see you later, folks.